there, everybody. Thanks for joining us tonight on Close to Death. I'm Selena Roane, your host here, and we are powered by Fear Paranormal Society. Tonight, I have a pretty exciting guest on that is known as one of the most, actually the world's extreme escape artist, Steve Santini. How you doing tonight, Steve?
How are you, Selena?
I am awesome.
And this is so great to finally get to talk to you.
Yeah, I know. I've been waiting. I know we had issues trying to get this scheduled, and because of electrical storms, and I didn't want to take a chance on having to cut you short. So, or you having to cut us short. So I'm glad we got it all worked out.
I am really happy. I'm really excited as well to appear at Phantom Fest. I mean,
yeah.
It's been a long time since I've been in San Antonio, and I can't wait to come back.
Yeah, it's going to be a very interesting fest, I do believe. There's so much stuff there and so many different people. It's going to be totally interesting. But a lot of people recognize you from, like, Deals from the Dark Side. Can you tell us a bit about the show for those that haven't seen it, and also some of your favorite experiences from it?
Well, you know, I'm a person that collects objects, and I always have, that have a very dark history. You know, I'm drawn to dark history objects. We're talking about really old things, Viking weapons, medieval instruments of torture, execution machines, like real things from centuries ago. And, a number of years ago, I created a show called Deals from the Dark Side, which Sci-Fi picked up and ran for 13 episodes. And basically, the show was intended to mirror a good part of my life, or a portion of it, where myself and some friends would hunt out these objects, track them down, and then, using history and research, try and prove or disprove they are what they were claimed to be. So, I mean, the show was really cool. We got to travel all over North America in a vintage hearse, going from place to place and encountering some really amazing objects. I mean, there were objects, there was a knife purported to have been used and lost by Jack the Ripper after the second Ripper murder. There were ankle shackles used in a notorious witch torture prison in Bamberg, Germany, where hundreds of people were tortured to death. It was remarkable, the things we found on the journey. And, I got to add some great pieces to the collection. And it's unfortunate we only went one season. I mean, it was a good show, and I think it was a little bit ahead of its time.
Yeah, Sci-Fi and a lot of the actual networks have an issue with running a good show longer than one season. I don't understand it. They did my friends at Deep South Paranormal the same way. They're like, yeah, one season and you're out. So, I don't know. I guess they have ADHD pretty bad, and they want to they lose interest fast in their shows. I'm not sure, but
what blows my mind is that since then, I think that was a year and a half, 2 years ago that we were on Sci-Fi, Deals from the Dark Side is now aired in practically every country on the globe. I mean, it's playing right now in Spain. It's playing right now as we speak in Finland or Sweden. It's really, I'm amazed that nobody's come back to me basically and said, look, would you pick this? Would you be willing to do more of these for a different network? If they would, I would be very happy to entertain that prospect, because people have a fascination with dark history. I mean, whether they admit it or not, everybody likes to hear the gruesome story of that axe did what? That took someone's head off. And people like to find out the backstories and the information behind. Whether those pieces are even paranormal or not, there's a side, I think, in all of us that wants to find out the dirty deeds done dirt cheap. So, it's a fun show.
Yeah, it sounds extremely interesting because, especially the pieces that you're collecting, they're so freaking old that it's amazing they're even in the condition that they're in. So that tells you how well-made stuff was back in that era, as opposed to what would be made today that we're not going to find probably, years from today. I read that you first began your career working as an escape artist and a hypnotist. What made you decide to go into this field?
Well, I was always fascinated with ancient cultures and past history. And, I never really realized it until I had a really horrible accident. When I was in my early 20s, I was underwater in a replica of Harry Houdini's milk can. And we performed this thing for 2 years, solid, no incident. But we had left this in a buddy's backyard, and the neck of the milk can, which is where the trick is that releases, this thing had actually rusted solid to the inner neck, which it's supposed to slide on. Oh. And I went out to do this escape in front of a packed audience in Canada, and, you get locked in, you're underwater, the lid's locked on, you're in handcuffs, they push a curtain in front, and then, no one can see what you do, what you have to do to get out of the thing. Right. I pushed up and the lid would not release.
Oh.
And I was running out of air. And I mean, at the time, we were using John Carpenter's Halloween theme to, key the audience up and, get everyone just freaked out, time's ticking by, it's got that pop, 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 pop. And I'm underwater hearing this through the metal of the can, and I know that I'm dead. I mean, I can't get out. I'm banging on the can. My assistant can't hear because of the loud music. And after 4 minutes, when they finally pulled the curtain back and I wasn't standing there soaking wet, everybody went mental. A police officer fortunately managed to get the lid off the tank, and I was dead. When they pulled me out, I was dead. I mean, I had no vital signs. I was taken to the hospital, and they worked on me the whole way there. They got my heart going again. Wow. And after that incident, the weirdest thing, and this really happened, I became a lot more sensitive. We would go to historic places, or I was always a collector, but after that accident, I would be in a historic place, or I'd be handling a historic object, and I could very clearly see in 80% of the cases what that had been used for, who was standing beside me, who was behind me, and that drove me to collect even more. And I like to call myself a archaeologist.
Yeah.
Because I am something of a medium now and something of a sensitive, but it's different. I'm not a psychometrist. I only get those impressions from handling objects that have a very dark history. And I think it's weird because my life path now has been to find those objects, and I speak for the people that they harmed. So it's quite a bit different than I think, an ordinary psychometrist asking for your wedding ring or something the living person owns, or even a dead person. In my case, I'm handling objects that took lives. And the information that I get both through natural research and also what the objects tell me, it enables me to speak for the people that they mutilated, tortured, killed, and butchered.
Wow. That just is the things that they did to each other back in those days. It blows my mind. Hanging witches and things like that. Treating them as if they were like lepers. It was just, I don't know, the whole entire, we have a really dark history all over this world. And there is one piece that I did see that you posted on Facebook the other day. And it really intrigued me because I'm friends with a lot of vampires.
Right.
And the upside down cross is something that I don't understand a lot about. I need to, I guess, educate myself a little bit more. I know it was something, and I know you'll be able to tell me. Sure. They used it on this lock when they would lock up the witches. Can you tell us a little bit about that piece? Because it really interested me.
Sure. Well, I know that, in America, people think witchcraft, they think of Salem, mm-hmm. where 11 people were executed. But really, where the witch hunts went out of control was in Germany and Switzerland and Austria in the 1600s. In a 300-year period over there, they killed and tortured and burnt over 200,000 men, women, and children as witches. I mean, it was a Holocaust. That's the burning times where, the people that were accused usually were wealthy people because when you were accused, tortured, and you admitted you were a witch, all your property went to the church in most cases. So they weren't, always picking on the old woman that lived outside of town that, had a herb garden or, danced in the moonlight. They wanted people with power and money. And this padlock comes from the 17th century, and it was used in Austria where they had a lot of witch hunts. And in the front of this iron, it's hand-forged iron. In the front of it is an inserted brass piece, it's called an escutcheon plate. But what it is it's an applique to make the lock more decorative. But the keyhole this brass piece is shaped like an upside-down crucifix. What this would have notified the jailer, whose job it was to look after the dungeons and the prisoners, was that whoever was wearing shackles locked with that padlock was unclean, unholy, meaning you're dealing with someone that is of the devil or is of the Antichrist. And the upside-down cross would have notified him that this is, take extra precautions when torturing or when confining this person, because the padlock they're wearing, shows that they are unholy.
Wow. That was such a cool piece. I mean, when I saw it, I was like, wow, that is so interesting. And how, like I said, how old it is. And for the shape that it's in, it's amazing to me. The craftsmanship that they used back in those days on those torture pieces. It's like they took extra time to make sure it would really, really hurt somebody.
The eeriest thing I find is with a lot of those pieces, not only did they make them extremely well, but we have to remember, they weren't primitives back then. In the 1600s, they were starting to build some of the most ornate clocks in Europe and watches. So people knew mechanisms. It's just, what kills me is how they put decorative elements into it. Like, okay, you're wearing this lock, you're going to be tortured and burnt. Well, we want you to see this to remind you. There was an artistic element that bordered on the utterly sadistic.
Yeah, you could definitely say that.
Somebody had a really messed up sense of humor.
Yes, very much so. Very, very dark sense of humor. A lot of people don't even realize this, but you've been recognized by Ripley's as the world's most extreme escape artist and by Stan Lee's Superhumans. What is it like getting this recognition from such a vast and successful career?
Oh, it's been wild. I mean, like when I started off with the escapes when I was much younger, I was always trying to do things the way, of course, Houdini did. I think that every person that gets into escapology, that's their luminary, Harry Houdini. But, after my accident and, after a number of years rethinking it, I approached escapes like an extreme sport. No tricks, nothing hidden by a curtain, no hiding out of sight. If I have to pick a lock, I want the audience to see me do that. If I have to struggle for my life before something really damages me horribly, I want them to be there with me mentally. So I created myself, the Dark Master of Escape. And what that character is, he's like the Alice Cooper of escapes. The escapes I do, they're performed to heavy metal music on stage and at large public venues. And they're insane. We were Saw before Saw is Saw. If the listeners go on YouTube, they type in Steve Santini, they will see some pretty insane escapes, like being attached with my neck to a conveyor belt and drills are coming towards my face, and being locked in a helmet with rocket engines pointed at my eyes, and you have to get out before flames come inside the helmet and cut your head in half. This is like hardcore stuff, man. It is. And to have Stan Lee, I grew up, I think a lot of people did, reading Stan Lee's comics, and to have Stan Lee say that you're surpassing Houdini, you're doing a new way, and to have Ripley stand up there and say, look, you're the world's most extreme. That's pretty cool. As a kid, I never would have dreamed it would have come this far.
Yeah, well, I never would have dreamed of putting an axe to my face and trying to get out of it before it chopped my face in half. Dakota and I are friends, and, right. That's our mutual friend and everything, and we talked about you when we were going to New Orleans, and, besides being a huge Titanic fan, as you know he is, he was just amazed at the things the escapes that you have actually done, and they're true escapes. They're not actual, they're not magic tricks or illusions. You actually do things that could actually kill you or maim you very badly, like, chopping your head off or, chopping your face in half or, like you said, the drills coming at you. That kind of stuff, that makes people sit on the edge of their seats. I know that just watching some of the YouTube videos, because I did see some of the YouTube videos, I'm like, holy smokes, that was close. You do cut it close.
A lot of them are. I've actually, no word of a lie. I mean, like, I've done some dumb things, and we all make mistakes, but I can't make mistakes doing this stuff. I mean, got broken bones and, like, for real, and I mean, I had burns and stuff, but, like, we're playing with stuff like explosives, and it's getting, you know, I have a crew of people I work with. We design these things, and, you know, but you can't really practice some of these things. I mean, you just have to know the science behind what you're doing and have faith in your own abilities. Otherwise, you're going to be on Fox News. A terrible tragedy occurred today, you know.
Yeah.
It'll happen. I mean, it only takes 1 second for it to happen, but, you know, I don't know. I guess I've been fortunate, but what I'm most fortunate about in Escapes is that I saw a way to break the mold. I mean, I didn't want to, you know, I grew up on Alice Cooper. Alice Cooper's a big, you know, influence on what I've, you know, done in that direction. And another big influence is the German techno-metal band Rammstein. I mean, you know, I go over to Germany quite a bit. At one point, Rammstein's first manager was my manager in Germany. And it was just like, look, that's cool because I'm crazy too. I like fire and explosives and death machines. Yay, das ist sehr gut. This guy is fantastisch, you know?
That's great. Fantastic. That's awesome. Speaking of, not only are you the extreme escape artist and also a superhuman, but you've also been a little bit involved, like I said, with Dakota and the talk of the Titanic. You also have written a book about it, have you not?
I've actually written 2 books on Titanic, and wow. I'm a consultant to the world's largest Titanic auctions that happen. Usually I'm the guy they come to when they have a rare Titanic piece that they need authenticated. And probably the most impressive thing, I guess, if you want to talk Titanic, is I was a consulting historian to the art department on James Cameron's movie.
Yes, I did know that. And how was it to work on that movie? I mean, my God, it must have been just totally epic in your you know.
It was cool. I mean, but it came about in a really weird way. A friend of mine, Ken Marshall, who was the visual historian on that, Jim Cameron was like, gosh, we need measurements of deck chairs and we need better photos of the china. He wanted to recreate everything so perfectly. And Ken Marshall and Jim's like, where the hell do we get this stuff? We've got photos, but I need, you know, need to make exact copies. And Ken says, well, I know this dude that's been collecting Titanic his whole life. And he's got a deck chair, and he's got a life jacket, and he's got china that was on the boat. And so that's kind of how it came about happening. And I had no idea, I mean, that it was going to be the big phenomenon. Well, it became, the movie anyway. I mean, Ken got a hold of me and said, can you get me measurements and pictures? And Jim really appreciates it. And Lightstorm, you're going to work with his company. And I'm like, yeah, okay, sure, fine. And we went like that through email. And then one day he got a hold of me, and he was in Rosarito, Mexico, where they were filming some of the scenes they built, one whole half of the ship there. And he said, can you and Vera get down here tomorrow? And I said, what? No. Like, I can't pick up and just fly down to Mexico. And he said, because they're doing the sailing scene tomorrow where everybody waves goodbye and they're going to, you know, have smoke coming out the funnels. And I got Jim's permission to bring you on set. And I couldn't go, you know? I know. But I had no idea. Look, like, I'd seen those other Titanic movies before this one, and I had no idea how cool that movie was going to be. And, you know, when I sat in the theater and I was asked to review it by CBC Radio in Canada, they sent me, you know, to see it in the theater, and I had to be on the radio the next morning giving my opinion of a movie I worked on I'd never seen. And, man, oh, man, I didn't want to talk about Titanic for 2 days. It hit me so hard. I was like, holy crap, you built the ship, Jim. You know, and when I saw the scene where they're all waving goodbye and the smoke's coming out of the funnel and she's pulling away from the dock, I was kicking myself going, you could have been there, dude. You could have been there watching that happen. But, oh, no, you couldn't fly that quick. Oh, no.
Yeah, there's always those things in life that you kick yourself in the rear end for not getting to do, and that's probably going to be one of yours for forever. But the movie, the visuals of the movie were just absolutely amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, I couldn't believe how I mean, I haven't done a whole lot. Like, I'm not real educated as far as on the Titanic. Like, I couldn't really talk to Dakota about exact things on the Titanic, but just seeing the ship and seeing the pictures from the past, next to each other, it was amazing what he did. And I don't think people really understand how close of a replica it actually was.
It was incredible.
Yeah.
I mean, when the house here is always full of, like, literally, I'm upstairs on the 3rd floor, which I call the Midnight Museum, and it's loaded with artifacts. And right now, literally, I can look across the room. I'm staring at a Titanic deck chair, and right beside it is one from the rescue ship, the Carpathia. And, I'm looking, like, this is right here, right now, like, 13 feet across the room from me. And Jim's movie, though, like, I've lived around these objects a lot, but Jim's movie, somehow they started speaking again. You think you know the story already, big ship and it sank and all those people died, that's really sad. But when you own objects from the ship, they whisper to you. They're always reminding you. But when I saw Jim's movie, holy crap, I came home and looked at those same objects I'd had for years, and they weren't whispering, they were yelling. They were like, parts of that night were just like coming out of them. It was, because Jim put faces on those, people that we'll never know. He showed us that turmoil that happened on those decks that night, and wow, I could never look at these objects the same again.
Wow, that and you were talking earlier about after your accident. I hear a lot of people do get more sensitive to having the abilities to hear things and feel things and pick up things after they have a serious accident.
Oh yeah.
I was having deja vu and things like that as a child, and then I started having prophetic dreams, and then they stopped, and then I had a really, really bad accident, and right. I had another prophetic dream that ended in the Sioux City, Iowa crash that I dreamed like 2 weeks before it happened, the exact thing. And so, after that really bad head injury that I had, and then I started noticing, I was taking on more of my mom's emotions, more of the issues at home and things like that. So my empathic abilities started really kicking in high gear. I just didn't really pay them attention or even know that that's what they were. But it does seem to happen after a bad accident usually. Not only does it happen, like I was saying with these objects, I've always been something of an empath, but after the accident, wow, it went right over the top. It's like, how do I explain it? Like, I literally feel that I struck a deal with the dead. And the deal was, or I call them the ancient ones. And the deal was, we will allow you to keep finding the rarest objects on the planet. You have incredible luck as a collector and a researcher. We're going to let you keep doing that on one condition. You can't hoard them. You must share them with the world. If that means putting them on display in museums, if that means writing books about them, but you must tell our stories truthfully. And the moment you cease to tell our stories, we will make certain you not only cannot find objects anymore, but you will be punished. And I didn't sit down and hear a voice tell me all this one night, but it just is something I've always taken for granted, that there is this weird deal in place. And that came after my accident as well. Yeah, that is so, it happens like that a lot. And like I said, I've interviewed a lot of people and with abilities or with, ties to the paranormal or even ties not to the paranormal. And after an accident, they seem to have more sensitive, their senses are heightened more to where they can pick up on stuff that they didn't even notice prior to.
Some of these things, it's really interesting because, not to get off topic, but some of these devices you would say, like, okay, they tortured and killed witches, some of the stuff Steve has. Well, we would think of a witch as a bad person or an evil person. But, when I'm handling these things and collecting them and feeling their stories come through, what it really is it turns out that the person that suffered and died that really wants their story told, they were a good person. They weren't evil, they weren't wicked, and it often turns out the people that convicted them were wicked. The people that run the justice system, they were evil, and they were greedy. They wanted their land, they wanted their cattle, whatever it was. And it's really interesting because, it's a heck of a thing when it starts to happen, when you start to feel more sensitive, because it can really drive you a little bit crazy if you're not careful. You have to sit there and go, wait a minute, what's going on? am I losing my mind? And I'm sure you felt that, being more empathic.
Oh, yeah. And, you know, a lot of empaths also are misdiagnosed as bipolar, you know, because we feel things more than, you know, more than the average Joes, I guess, that don't really know they even have the ability if they focused on it, if they opened it up. But yeah, it's definitely that the empath is definitely more sensitive to things, and we feel things way more. Like, it could be something so little as a Pampers commercial, and it could just kill me, you know?
Yeah.
It's so strange, and it's like, oh my God, what is wrong with me? I mean, I was perfectly fine 5 minutes ago, and, you know, like a lot of empaths have a problem going to public places that are crowded, you know? Walmart, like I've said 100 million times, Walmart and places like that wear me out, because in 30 minutes, I'm like just drained.
Yeah, you know what? It's so funny. After years and years of performing, like literally thousands of stunts and live shows and stuff, I started to suffer really debilitating panic disorder, right? Where it was like, and it's funny, you hit the nail on the head. It always happened around, you know, places like that, like large crowds, right. Being in the middle of them, you know, train platforms, airports, you know, because there's so many emotions flying around, and it's taken a long time to realize to shut them off. Yeah.
Well, 45 years is what I just learned, you know, what all this was about, what I was feeling at different places. Like, you know, I'd go to an investigation, and I would be fine when I walked in, pumped up, ready to go. And the next, 30 minutes, I'd be sad or pissed off, and I wasn't understanding what was going on. And then when they told me I was an empath, it was like a light went off, and I was like, oh my God, it totally makes sense now. Right. You know, and yeah, you do feel, panic attacks, anxiety really bad when I get around people. If I can't find a way out, that's when I really start freaking out and panicking. But and 45 years of soaking everybody's stuff in, it's going to be kind of hard to learn how to push all that stuff away.
You know what's going to be the next big thing in paranormal? The wealthiest person in the paranormal field is going to be somebody that invents a hand sanitizer for the soul. Because then, we can shower, put this on, and all of a sudden it's all gone. But that's not going to happen. But I mean, that would, that's something we all need, I think.
Yeah, definitely. I wish, the paranormal has gotten so crazy and out of control, and I'm hoping that some of us can reel it back into where it should be instead of a competition that it has become. Because we're all doing the same exact thing, looking for the same answers, and you're looking for different answers, which is totally cool. But aside from your vastly successful career, you've also have the vast collection of the Viking memorabilia, items from the actual Titanic.
Yep.
But most recognizable torture instruments dating back literally hundreds of years of absolutely vile methods to harm and kill people. What difference do you feel you've made with your collection and its exhibition?
Well, I mean, every time we've had things on display, and I've been on hand to speak to people, I've educated them to look deeply at the dark side of human nature. Most people, when attending an exhibition of the artifacts that we have in the collections, they just won't go, or they won't go in, or they'll tell their children, no, you're not going. And, if we don't learn from the past, of course, that old saying, you're condemned to repeat it. And I think the most successful thing that collecting these plain and simply viewed as evil objects is that I'm able to educate people to look inside ourselves. Look, don't think that just because we burnt witches 600 years ago, we can't do it again. Because there's a part of us that is quite plainly savage. There's a part of us that is still so superstitious, still so petty, still so jealous. And that's what the greatest thing about collecting these sorts of cursed objects is. I mean, people say, God, your house must be haunted as hell with all the things you got there. It's not. because I have a deal. If I was just a guy, wanted this stuff to show off, that would break the deal. The deal is I have to share it. And that's the best, most satisfying part of it. I don't collect it because I'm morbid. It comes to me. I mean, there's ways to find it, and it seems to come to me easily because, once again, they want their stories told. And when I can do that, and suddenly somebody walks out of an exhibition or a museum hall where we've had objects on display, and they say, you know what, I wasn't going to come in here because I'm grossed out by these things, or I thought this was sensationalistic or morbid. You just educated me on the justice conditions of the time. Or you just told me about the life of a solitary executioner, and I'm not looking at this person as a fiend anymore. I'm looking at a person with a job and a family and, traditions and customs. That, oh man, that makes me sleep so well at night when that happens.
Yeah, we were talking earlier kind of about, John Zaffis before we started talking about how he collects the haunted things, and you collect the more darker side. And,
way darker.
Yeah, way, way darker. Like I've even seen some of your torture devices that you have where I guess they put fingers in this metal clamp type thing. And oh, God. And
well, see, John, I've never met John, by the way, but I know that John collects things that are claimed to be haunted. And like I said, it's quite unusual. If you would, we've had psychics come to the third floor here. We've had whole paranormal investigation teams come to the house. Their equipment behaves in ways they've never seen before. Every single one of them. They freak out. They just like, we can't handle it. And they say, how do you live with it? Well, just calm down, take a step back and listen to the true stories, the true histories. It's not that the things are evil entities screaming at you saying, hear me. It's that they're really hurting after all these years. And they just want someone to take away the stigma. They want someone to understand them. They don't want to be sent to the light. I don't have a single object here I've ever had someone perform an exorcism on because they think that's absurd. If something has that history attached to it, it's not going to harm you if you live with it and respect it. I think everybody, in the paranormal world, everybody goes, oh, let's cleanse it. Why? If you cleanse it, if you cleanse any object of any energy, be it good or bad, you're not learning to live with it. That energy has a right to be there. More than a right, you have to cleanse it and drive it to where you think it needs to be. This is what that's just my opinion. And I'm telling you, I am living right now in a house with over 1,000 objects that have beheaded people, pulled people limb from limb. I have the skull here of a witch that was burned in the 1500s with the iron gag still locked in her mouth so she could not curse the town as she burned at the stake. I mean, there are things here. We're not talking about a clown or a doll that somebody said, oh, it moves at night. Oh, no. No. These things are genuinely cloaked in every emotion they elicited. However, I want them to have that emotion. They need it. They need it to keep living and speaking. Yeah,
that's true. They do have stories to tell. And I mean, when you die in such a horrific way, I'm sure you are tortured in eternity for, whatever you did or whatever they thought you did or was accused of doing. I was going to ask, do you have anything that was used on vampires or?
Well, in the collection we have a vampire killing kit from the Victorian period, but I should make it quite clear that none of the vampire killing kits that exist were ever used on vampires. They were created during the Victorian period as sort of a cabinet of curiosities item by people that like to have weird stuff in their houses. The Victorians used to collect mummies and all kinds of odd little things to show people. But there is one thing that I do have. It's a very large iron spike, and it's from Romania. And this was found in a coffin of a person that was believed to be a vampire. Now, the Hollywood idea of let's drive the stake through the heart, a wooden stake through the heart, it probably comes from this ancient Romanian custom, which is if a person was believed to be a vampire, before you bury them in the ground in their coffin, you drive an iron stake through their chest, not the heart necessarily, but through the chest. And the idea was you are now pinning them to the inside of the coffin so that they cannot get up out of the grave.
Oh.
So issue closed. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
oh, dude, no, and how they would come up with that isn't that, you know, somebody would see the person after they died walking around or flying around as a bat. They would just say, this person has lived a very evil life. Suppose you were a killer or a murderer, a robber, and they would take that precaution. They'd say, well, you know what? Somebody with an evil heart, like this dude, this criminal, we're going to stake him in his coffin so he will not return to feed on the blood of the living. So I do have this, and it's from the 1500s. So that's the closest thing to vampires.
Wow, that's crazy. What, you know, you said you almost died from the Houdini trick. Have you almost gotten close any other time that was closer than that or just as close as that when you were doing an escape?
Oh, yeah. There's footage on YouTube. I can't remember what the title is, but I'm doing an escape where I'm chained up behind a muscle truck, and it's at a beach, and there's like 100 feet of rope on the sand in front of me, and I'm shackled to this medieval torture device, which has my thumbs and thumb screws. There's this wicked iron blade hooked down, pointed at my chest. My elbows are tied to this rope, which are hooked up to the back of this dragster, and there's a 1 minute countdown. And then that guy takes off down the beach, and the rope is in a coil, and you can just see it go, and he's just booking it. And at the last couple seconds, I realized my one thumb is still trapped in this torture device, and it's a split-second thing, and I broke my thumb to get out. You can literally see me snap the thumb out, pull back, and at the second I pull back, like half a second, the rope just flies up. If I'd not done that, the car would have pulled me apart. Like, it was... It's on YouTube, and I think it's called Drag to Death.
Oh, my God.
Yeah. That's what would have happened if that hadn't have come off. So that was, you know how they say in books and movies that the last minutes of your life seem to take forever or go into slow motion. It did that day, and I'm lucky. Yeah, I'm really lucky.
Woo! Slow motion, but all in split seconds. That is... Yeah, you've come close a couple of times. I mean, I've heard, you know, Dakota's like, this dude does crazy stuff. He doesn't do just your everyday, like, I'm in a box 1 minute and I'm on the other side of the street the next. This is like something that you got, like, stuff coming at your face, like saw blades on your skull, you know. Dakota's like totally freaked out.
Well, you know, like I said, I came up with all these death traps and stuff. We came up with them before Saw movies came out. And it's kind of funny when the Saw movies started coming out, we're watching this stuff. I'm not saying Saw was inspired by what I do. I'm just saying that, well, we could have lent them some of our gear, you know, for the movies, because, man, we were like, there's one with an angle grinder that I do, too, which is on my head.
Yeah.
And there's a thin strip of metal above my mohawk on my head, and the angle grinder is on a pivot, and it's grinding away at that, man. And I got to get out of the restraints, reach up and unplug this, because if it cuts through that thin strip of steel, it drops into my skull doing like 1,600 revolutions, you know, per. It's insane. Yeah. It's just insane.
That would saw the skull in half in, I don't know, 1 point whatever seconds. I mean, it would like just be zip, and that'd be it.
It would be very graphic, yeah.
Yeah. It would be pretty gross, and I don't do well with blood, so I don't know how I would react if that would happen in front of me. But I know that you're making your debut U.S. convention appearance at Phantom Fest in San Antonio, and I've heard a few rumors that you might be bringing some of your artifacts from your collection, and you might have a few other surprises. Is this a true statement, or is this just a mere?
No.
Oh,
no.
cool.
We're bringing down a few torture instruments from the Midnight Museum collection. And man, people are going to get the chance to handle them. Even more so, if they're brave enough, people can try them on. I mean, there's that, you talked earlier about torture finger screws with the plates of metal crush your thumbs or fingers. We're bringing one of those down. We're bringing also this torture mask, this iron mask that locks over the face, so people, can come up, say hi, get to handle these dark objects. I mean, it'd be interesting to see what they feel off of them, and, take pictures of them. And, yeah, we're doing that, and that's pretty exciting. And then also there was a video that we made called Escape or Die. That's kind of a mini documentary about, the stuff I do and the people that have worked with me, and we're going to be showing that also the convention. So really excited about that.
Sweet. Are you going to be trying to do any escapes, or are you just gonna save that for a bigger stage? Well,
I don't want to get hurt.
Yeah, not in San Antonio, no, for sure.
No, you know what? I'm not this time, but I'm, certainly happy to, it's always difficult, too, nowadays when you're doing these things. You have to get third-party liability insurance to protect the venue, When you're working with things like power tools, fire, explosives.
And the Minger's like, no, thanks. Oh, we're good.
Exactly the problem. And that's why, I've done a lot of escapes the past couple of years over in Germany and Switzerland, because over there, you're allowed to be an adult and take responsibility for your own stupidity. It's like, oh, this guy's wired up to explosives. Yeah, sehr gut, he's going to kill himself. Fantastic, yeah. And
let's watch it.
Yeah, just watch it. And you're allowed more of that latitude over there. And I think, it's a little tougher here, but maybe in the future we could, cook something up for coming back to Texas.
That would be really, really cool. Because, Dakota and I were talking about getting him back in the Dallas area.
Nice.
He does do his galleries and stuff like that, and Jefferson at, History Haunts and Legends and things like that. But Dallas has never had him, So maybe we could do like a big, huge combination, something or other, surprise for everybody, because it'd be really fun to do that. And, when we're talking about Phantom Fest, what exactly, when will you exactly be on and speaking or debuting? I mean, so when people are coming out to the Phantom Fest, which is at the Minger Hotel in San Antonio, when will you'll be there for the meet and greet on Friday night, and then Saturday.
I'm not actually speaking, but I'm going to have a table or a booth or whatever they've set up for me the whole time through. So I literally will be on the floor meeting fans and, letting people try on the torture instruments, talking with them the whole time it's on.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
That's awesome, because we're going to be broadcasting live from Phantom Fest
cool.
live stream. So we're gonna probably grab you for a quick interview there. What could we be expecting from you as far as, are we going to be seeing you on TV anytime soon in the future? I saw your cover photo with the puzzle pieces, and it intrigued me. So what's that about?
Well, you really put me in a corner. I can't. All right. Well, I can say, because the network announced this themselves back in January.
Okay.
I have a show coming out, 2 pilot episodes of a new series, but we only shot the 2, and it's coming out on Travel Channel, which Travel Channel had mentioned in a news release back in January that we were in production on the 2 pilots. They're going to be airing in October, and I likely might very well, mention when I'm down at Phantom Fest.
Okay. All right.
So it's just, you always have to be careful with these things, because non-disclosure. Yeah, I've had a couple of those myself, so I know you can't say anything or you'd have to kill us all. I can talk a little bit about the show right now if you'd like to know what the premise is.
Yeah, that would be great.
The premise of the show, it's really cool. It comes from something I created many years ago, a TV show pitch called Locked in the Past. And that is where we would travel to the places of famous historical punishments, tortures, imprisonments, and, examine the place, talk about the past history, and then, in effect, I would try and escape what these people went through, way back in the day, using only objects they would have available back in the day.
Oh, wow.
So it's taking that reality thing to a whole new level again, where the audience gets to see see me working on whatever my trap is or whatever is being done to me. And I'll tell you, the first 2 episodes, man, I mean, we just did 2 pilots. And, you know, of course, depending on how they go, you know, it'll make a difference, you know, and if we get more. But I'll tell you, I can't tell you what I'm doing in them, but I can tell you both of them hurt like hell. And they were extremely dangerous, using old school methods of making people go, holy crap, make it stop.
Oh, wow.
And the first episode, I can say that we shot in Salem, Massachusetts, where the witch trials went on. Oh. And the second one we shot at Castle Chillingham in the UK.
Wow. How cool is that to get to travel everywhere that you get to travel for these pieces, too?
It'll be really cool if these pilots do well enough that they order more and we get to travel more.
That would be really cool. I mean, that's what we all hope for. You know, I really don't. I mean, I don't really care if they pay me a whole bunch of money. If I just get a show where I can go to the places that I have on my 3-page bucket list, I'll be a happy girl. You know what I'm saying? I'm not really gonna be hating on anybody. I just want to go to the places on my bucket list. But you know, like I had Rob D on my show not too long ago, and he's also had the luxury of traveling. You know, he said, I'm just like you are, a ghost hunter, except I get to go to mine in a jet. I'm like, yeah, that's cool. You know what? Maybe one day I'll get to go over to England and you know, explore some castles and things like that.
That's cool, you know, and we had a great time, you know, making the 2 episodes. Well, everyone had a good time but Steve, who was suffering. But I mean, they're really compelling. I think it's fantastic television. I mean, it's quite a bit. It's totally different from anything else that's out there. As I said, they're going to air on the Travel Channel sometime in October. I know the dates, but I just have to make sure that I can spell it. And I know the title, but I can't spell that yet either. So hopefully by Phantom Fest, I'll have the okay from the executives, the suits, to spell that news.
Well, that will be awesome, because if that's the case, then I will probably have the news flash on our live broadcast. So
Cool.
They need to be watching for you to be on there, and I will always say on my Facebook page who and what is fixing to come up on the interview list too. So
Cool.
Where can people find you and find your museum and all that good stuff? Tell everybody where they can find your stuff.
Well, we operated a museum this summer in a place called Sable Beach up here in Canada, but that was just for one summer. We've taken the objects back here at home, and that's kind of done by private appointment. But where they can find me and read all about the crazy stuff Steve does and you know, what's coming up, hopefully, and is to go to, there's 2 sites. One is www.santinicentral.com. Now, that site has literally everything that I do, you know, the books I've written, you know, not just the extreme escapes. And then there's another site which is just hardcore escape stuff, which is www.thedarkmaster.com. So it's santinicentral.com and thedarkmaster.com.
And the Steve Santini that we're referring to does not play hockey. I'm just letting y'all know, because I am a hockey fan, and I'm like, wow, yep. It's like there's 2 Steve Santinis. There's like the escape artist and the hockey player. How cool is that? But yeah,
I really feel sorry for this guy, you know, Selena, because I'm sure when people do a search, they're like, what? You collect torture stuff? Dude, I thought you played for the NHL. I mean, I'm sure I hope people know the difference. There's no way it's a compliment to me, because I'm nowhere near fit enough to be an NHL hockey player. But I don't think the compliment goes both ways for him.
Yeah, you know, speaking of the torture devices, the ones with the fingers, the crusher, yep. That made me think of the movie Casino. And
yeah.
When that guy was counting cards and they crunched his fingers, I go, man, the mob would have loved that piece right there. You know,
they hit his hand with a hammer, I think. Oh my gosh.
Oh my God. I was like, Jesus Christ, that had to hurt it. I mean, they slammed it with it. But that's what it reminded me of, something that the mob
well,
really
used. You know, yeah, that's what we're going to have. That's the ultimate surprise at Phantom Fest. Joe Pesci will be at my booth working the torture instruments on other people. All right, step right up. You want to put the torture mask on? Okay, we're going to tighten this screw here. Okay, just stop screaming. I can't stop screaming. Shut them up. It's going to be great.
Yeah, Joe Pesci cracks me up, man. I'm like, funny how? Wow, funny how, man?
Yeah. I'm here to amuse you. I'm here to make you laugh. What? I'm funny like a clown? What? Yeah.
Yeah. We are gonna have so much fun at Phantom Fest, and I'm looking so forward to meeting you.
Yeah,
Dakota has done nothing but talk about how cool you are and everything like that, and so I really can't wait, and I appreciate you taking your time out of your evening to be with us tonight. And I hope to have you on again after your show comes out, and hopefully the pilots will take off, and we'll get to see a lot more of you.
Well, I sure hope so, and I can't thank you enough for having me on. And, the last time I was in Texas at San Antonio, I kid you not, I was 13 years old.
Wow.
That's a long time ago. We won't say how long. Let's just say that's a while ago, and I'm looking forward to coming back. I loved it then. I went to the Alamo last time, and what I liked the best about San Antonio was the canal system, with the boats and the shops along the water.
Riverwalk, yeah, the Riverwalk, and the Minger is right right across the street from the Alamo.
That's crazy.
Yeah, and then the Riverwalk is I'm talking not even. It's boom right there. So
wow.
You're gonna really love it. It's gonna be really cool, and we're gonna have a great time.
Cool.
Phantom Fest is gonna be awesome. So
right on. Well, let me send a shout out to everybody that's coming to Phantom Fest. This is Steve Santini, and I look forward to meeting all of you and shaking your hand and talking unusual history, paranormal, whatever you like. And come on by the booth and try on some torture instruments and check them out. And man, oh man, it's a real honor. So thanks for having me in San Antonio, and we'll see you in a few short weeks.
All right, I'll see you in a few short weeks, Steve. Thanks a lot.
Take care. Thanks.
All right, you too.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. All right, I hope everybody enjoyed that. Like we were talking about, the big events that we are going to be going to, and Steve Santini, along with Dakota Lawrence and others, will be at, is Phantom Fest, which is at the Minger Hotel in San Antonio. September 26th is the meet and greet and the investigations, and the 27th is lectures, the gallery, and the after party with DJ Cos. If you look on Fear Paranormal, their Facebook page, we've got all kinds of things about Phantom Fest up there, and you need to get your VIP ticket pretty quick because they're going fast. We have about 3 weeks left, so don't miss that. The next event is going to be Mississippi Parafest, which is October 3rd through the 5th in Vicksburg, Mississippi. And Delta Paranormal Project is the ones hosting that, so that will be a blast. Then the next one is Beckham Spirit Fest, which is in Mineola, Texas, October 18th at the Beckham Hotel. A few of us will be speaking, and there will be an investigation later that night, so you need to check that one out. And last but not least on the events is History, Haunts, and Legends, which is in Jefferson, Texas. Jody puts a really good convention on, and there will be lots of speakers, and Dakota Lawrence will also be doing a gallery there as well, and that's November 1st. Then I have sponsors to thank before we close out tonight, and my sponsors are Miss Hattie's Place in Belton, Texas. You need to check it out. Prices are at an all-time low right now, but after October 1st, they're going back up to the regular prices of, I believe it's $300, something like that, for a group of 8. So let me know if you want to schedule your stay at Miss Hattie's, because I'm helping her out with that. Galena's Murder Bordello in Galena, Kansas is my other sponsor. They are totally cool, and the place is active as can be. They are having an October 31st Halloween ghost hunting tour, so go and check that out. Get on the Galena Murder Bordello page and sign up for that if you're in the area. And last but not least, NOLA Ghost Hunting Tours. I want to send a shout out to Chris Malonson and Kevin Betzer and send my prayers for them today. They lost a very special friend. And I wanted to give them a shout out. So, guys, my thoughts are with you, and I will be back after my vacation. Peace out. Everybody have a good one.